So, it's been a few weeks since this movie came out. I've been a little busy, but let's finally talk about 28 Years Later. So, 28 Years Later was directed by Danny Boyle, was written by Alex Garland, who previously worked on 28 Days Later all the way back in 2003. And in this movie, taking place, well, 28 years after the events of the last two movies, this small community survived the rage virus. Now they live alone on this island. And when these people go out to explore and such and to hunt and such, they encounter various zombies. They encounter scary things that have happened in the world since the outbreak has began. And we have this new movie in the 28 Days Later franchise. So this was a movie that I was mainly interested in for a few reasons. First off, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland were returning to this movie who previously worked on 28 Days Later, a movie that I thought was very creepy and actually holds up pretty well. And this movie, after that first trailer came out, I was immediately incredibly excited for this movie. It's like, oh, this could be really interesting. And then that trailer dropped and it had the, Boots playing in the trailer. I was immediately on board with this movie. That was one of the best trailers I had seen in a while, and I was very excited for this movie. And I saw this movie twice, actually. Not because I was a huge fan of it, but because I kind of wanted to see if my thoughts had changed a little bit. Because afterwards I thought, while watching, it's like, okay, that was actually kind of underwhelming. And going back and watching it a second time, I'm like, huh, I definitely like it a lot more the second time, but I can understand why some people out there really don't like this movie. But I'm mixed overall. There are aspects of the movie that I think are really cool and really good, but there are some that I'm like, I feel like this is very underwhelming. So let's dive into it because there's a lot to talk about with this movie. First off, I thought the performances were pretty good. Despite having names like Ray Fiennes, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Jodie Comer, the best performance in the movie has to be Alfie Williams. I thought he was really good. He plays the son of Aaron Taylor Johnson and Jodie Comer. I thought he was really good in this movie. He carried the entire movie. As far as the other actors go, Jodie Comer I thought stood out the most from the three adult actors. Ray Fiennes also pretty good, even though he doesn't really appear until much later in the movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson's also pretty good in this movie. Also, Chai Lewis Perry, I thought he was pretty creepy as the main villain, the Alpha, and I thought there are some unique moments in this movie, like some really good sequences that are pretty intense and creepy and disturbing and such. There are some stuff in the the island and such. There's some not incredible, but like very interesting sequences with zombies. I thought were like, okay, that's actually pretty cool and pretty disturbing and such. And I do think some of the stuff they do with the zombies is also unique. It's very different than what I kind of would have expected from this movie. Meanwhile, I did think the score was very well done. At times, it's very creepy and disturbing, and when there's like an intense sequence, it does build pretty well. And I do think that when there's more melancholy scenes, the music actually does help the movie a lot more. And I do think this movie's also very gorgeously shot at times. They kind of made a big deal that this movie was shot on an iPhone. This is an Android, so it was shot on an iPhone, and I can't really tell half the time. It looks absolutely stunning at times, especially towards the end of the movie. There's some really beautiful imagery that I thought was very well done. And I do think a lot of the themes are kind of interesting about growing up in like this post-apocalyptic environment, which it's been done before, but I do feel like it's kind of interesting for a movie like this. I do think the themes of paranoia are kind of interesting, how paranoia can make you actually worse in retrospect. I do think that's very interesting. I do think the themes about parenthood are very interesting as well. When you see the movie, you'll kind of understand a lot more. It definitely is a very different approach to a movie that I did not expect. It's kind of more somber, it's kind of more reflective, and I don't know if I think that's kind of the reason why I turned people off for some reason. I don't know. But it definitely was something that I didn't expect. But let's get into the negatives because that really wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting like this really disturbing, unhinged nightmare of a movie. And I got like this smaller scale type movie where it's like, huh, that's actually not what I was going for. I didn't expect this coming of age story in a zombie movie like this. But I think they tried the best that they can with what they were going for. Also, I feel like the movie has a lot of pacing issues. This movie's only about 2 hours, so that's kind of a normal length for a movie these days. And I feel like it definitely loses a lot of steam as the movie goes on. Like, I feel like there's just so many issues where I'm kind of like, can you just pick this up a little bit? And I do feel like the opening scene and the last scene are kind of unnecessary to this movie. I feel like it's more leading into the next movie that's supposed to come out next year. And I felt like you don't really need this in this movie. I feel like you kind of had a solid enough story or an okay enough story for a movie, and you just didn't really need that opening and ending scene. Meanwhile, if you were really excited to hear Boots play throughout the movie or kind of have like some form of it, you're going to be very disappointed because Boots only plays in like at some point during the first 10 minutes of the movie. And I felt like this movie could have used it a lot more. I guess like some of the themes from that poem are in this movie about, how people are kind of going mad and kind of going insane and such. And I feel like there's some aspects to it in this movie where it's like it's kind of subtle in a way. So I was a little disappointed at first that it wasn't really used a lot, but I get why, because like they wound up using some of the themes of the poem into this movie. And also the editing. The editing at times is pretty bad. It kind of uses a lot of the panorama scenes that you kind of see on like iPhones and such, and it's really bad, especially because like a lot of times when there's like a zombie kill, it's so infrequent as well. Like it's kind of like, is there a zombie kill, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we'll just turn the camera around and there it is in another angle. And I just felt like at first it was kind of cool, but then it just kind of didn't work. It just kind of became annoying after a while. I feel like this is a movie that had a lot of ideas going on. And there's clear that there's going to be a lot more ideas in the next movie that's going to come out in a few months. But I felt like there are times where this movie, when it shines, it actually does shine really well. But when it doesn't, it's not particularly great. It's not embarrassingly bad, but I just feel like it's a bit unfocused at times and uneven. And I feel like this movie could have worked on its own if it wasn't like tied down to try to do something bigger, and also they kind of could get like a narrow grasp of like what they were trying to do instead of like trying to do a little bit of everything at once. So 28 years later, I feel like the performances are really good. Their unique approach is very fascinating. The themes are pretty interesting. There are some cool sequences. It's gorgeously shot. The music's very well done. But I feel like it just has a lot of pacing issues. It loses a lot of steam as the movie goes on. I don't like the beginning. I don't like the end. I feel like Boots was not really used too well. The editing is kind of underwhelming. And again, I feel like if this movie really didn't have too much going on, it could have been something. So I will give 28 Years Later 2.5 out of 4 stars. Stream it. So, what was the most disappointing movie of the year so far to you? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.